there is more of a misunderstanding on the part of students than there is an actual underhandedness to their willingness to take information off of the internet and then offer it as their own. I think that more students get caught, so to speak, with the idea that they are plagiarizing rather than going into it with the actual intention.
This is what I suggest. It's not that long. Could you read that?
Sure.
I think it's an important policy, and I just have to have you read it in the record.
Okay. And maybe before I do that, just so you know, I did research some other local handbooks, and kind of this is a compilation of some of their language and also some of ours. It reads that academic honesty is expected of all students. Cheating in any form, including plagiarism, is a breach of this expectation. Plagiarism is defined as the taking and using of the thoughts, writings, inventions, etc. of another as one's own. Plagiarism includes copying someone else's work, writing, homework, or project, or copying someone's quotations that come from an outside source, even a peer. This also applies to internet use. Cutting and pasting information from any website and claiming it as one's own is a form of plagiarism as well. Students are reminded of the importance of using proper citation methods. Students who fail to adhere to the expectations of academic honesty, either through cheating or plagiarizing, are subject to receiving a lower grade or a grade of 0 on the assignment. Parents will be notified in cases of academic dishonesty. Additional consequences may be assigned depending upon the severity of the infraction. That last part essentially is what we have done in the few cases where we have had a situation of plagiarism or cheating. It isn't widespread. I don't want to present it as though it is. It actually came from a teacher who thought that there was something missing in the handbook. I agreed with her, and that's what led us to including something in the handbook for next year if you so see it fit.
I think it makes sense to call it out, especially the internet aspect, because I do think it's just so easy now to take something and cut it and plop it down into your paper. And, you know,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think
our students in grade 9 are taught a very comprehensive process of writing and the citation of primary sources and secondary sources. That's become something more and more part of the curriculum in English and U.S. history classes. So I think that has helped as well. But the internet does lend itself to, you know, getting information very easily and cutting and pasting essentially.
Student goes at it with the purpose of cheating.
That's right.
Because I know with my son, when he'll pull information off, he struggles with trying to put it into his own words. So he'll take a paragraph and try to rewrite it, and that's not right either. So there's a piece that's a learning process on how do you take
Absolutely.
information and then spit it back out. So-
I believe, I agree, Mrs. Bacher. I think I said at the outset that I think a lot of students get, I'm going to say, caught in it really innocently. That their intention is not to represent something as though it were their own work, but finding it so easily, just assuming that that's the correct thing to do. And again, we don't have a widespread problem with it, and I don't want to make it sound like we do, but it's nice to have definition, I think, for the benefit of students and parents to what it is.
And this is a lot better place for them to find that out than somewhere in college.
Yes,
Absolutely.
right.
When they
Yeah.
get thrown out of college.
Right.
Or thrown out of the job for doing it.
Exactly.
Because that can happen.
Yep. Exactly.
No, I think you're
Time to learn how to use citations.
Yes.
Right.
Right. As a former English teacher, it's very close to my heart on the proper citation of source information. So,
John, I found another number. There were 3 or 4 areas where it looks like we either repeated a section
Please.
or something's out of place. So
Okay.
if we could quickly go through those. On page 2, we have the non-discrimination statement, which is is that just the first paragraph and then the rest of it should have another heading? Because after that one paragraph about non-discrimination, then it says this handbook is...
it should be a space between
Okay.
first and second paragraph.
So just a space there, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
This is page 8. This is not an error, but it's a comment that I had in terms of wording.
Okay.
Under guidance department, it says the primary purpose of the guidance department is to provide counseling for students who may have problems arise during the school year. I guess I don't look at, I think that's one aspect of the guidance department is to work with students who have problems, but isn't their general job their responsibility is much more than just students who have problems? You know, I guess I'm looking at the description of that as it's almost a negative. They deal with problems versus they're there to provide, you know, whether it's career, college, or educational guidance to our student body or something like that. It's not a big deal, but I just looked at the way that was worded. So if you can fool around with that and come up
Okay.
with something a little more positive, unless anybody else in the committee
Well,
thinks
it
I'm
says
crazy.
primary purpose, maybe some reference to the secondary purpose,
Or I
another.
think a definition of problems. It could be scheduling problems,
Right.
concerns about their academic
Right.
program for the following
Something a
year.
little,
So, yeah.
few more specifics than that.
Okay.
Then we had, at the bottom of page 10, and then on page 12, so the bottom of page 10, it talks about early graduation, and then on page 12, under O, we have the same statements again about early graduation.
Yeah, in the first section, the section J,
Yep.
it's really as part of where outside courses may come into play. They may come into a play for a student's plan on early graduation.
Okay.
And then we just kind of broke out early graduation on its own because there are some other requisite things that the student would need to do with his parents
Okay.
if they were laying out a plan for early graduation. But you're right, the language is the same
It's the same,
for,
it's related to that specific use of outside.
Correct. because there are a number of uses of outside courses, right?
Page 15, related to the parties, there just seems to be an inconsistency between the first, between the second full paragraph and the third full paragraph. We talk about, the second paragraph says the fourth and subsequent parties to school within 15 minutes after the official start of school day, this semester will be considered unexcused, except in the case, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
The next paragraph says, for all parties to school after 15 minutes following the official start of school day, the prior minutes will be considered unexcused. So I guess I'm confused. You say the fourth and subsequent,
It seems repetitive, you mean?
it's almost contradictory, isn't it? You're saying the fourth and subsequent in the paragraph above, and then we say all parties.
Yeah, the
Okay.
fourth and subsequent is within 15
Okay.
minutes.
Oh, maybe we just boldface those in the text.
Within and after?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just draw a little highlight to those? Sure, we can do that.
Dan, I'm not going to vote against this tonight because of this issue, as long as you're still principal, because you have the final say of an extenuating circumstance. But I still have a problem with the student absent on Friday not being able to participate in a sporting event or a school activity on the weekend. Yeah,
Unless it's an excuse.
right. But John can make that, as the administrator at the school, John can make that determination.
And we do,
If
yeah.
a future principal comes forward, I might have a different opinion, because I think John is fair in these cases and has
I
been,
agree.
so.
Yeah, we try to be. And they do
I
arise.
agree.
They do arise.
19, page 19 at the top, number 10, is just a minor typo. It says respect individual differences and ways of, should be life, not ways of
Oh,
life.
yes, thank you.
I'm really doing a good job filling Mr.
I
Derby's
know.
shoes tonight.
You missed two on the table of contents, though, that I found up there.
Oh, you're
Oh.
kidding me. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. Steve, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
If you want to know the background, if I could take 30 seconds to
Yes.
tell you that the reason this looks different to you this year as opposed to the way I've presented in the past is we've never had, since I've been the principal, we've never had the handbook as a Word document that I could go in and make changes to. So this year, I had two students through Ms. Deesman who did their community service and retyped the entire handbook so that we now have it. So if you want to change like to life, as it should be,
Yeah.
in the past, I would have to drive up to North Shore Printing, give him the change, he'd have to change the types. That's how the changes were made all summer. So now, and like the program of studies, we did that the same way this year. So students are in their community service house retyping. So there are, just inherent in that. And I've looked at it so many times, I think I'm looking at mistakes over and over again. But you may find a few typos in that regard.
You see that the students are experts on it. so-
They've done a nice job, yeah, they did.
On page 20, the first paragraph on student appearance, I think there's a word missing that says, or with his distracted or disruptive in appearance, or with his detrimental to the would that be to the purpose for conduct?
Yes.
Of the school?
To the purpose, yes.
And then on that same page, under cafeteria decorum, which is a favorite headline of mine, cafeteria decorum, it says waste material, I think it should say waste material, it's one, two, three.
Yep, I see it, thank you, yep.
I think that's it. Yeah, I don't have, anybody else have anything else? Although, I did miss some typos in the table of contents, so I'm not strictly successfully confident in my. I did have one question for it's actually probably more for David about fundraising activities. Do we find that most groups kind of follow this rule where they're supposed to come to you by the end of September, and if not, it's on page 34, where it talks about fundraising activities undertaken by student groups and authorized booster groups, and that they're supposed to have all applications in to you by September 30th of the school year. My guess is we may have groups that don't follow that rule, and if that's so, is there any way we can, one of my concerns is fundraising events kind of going on without any of us knowing that they're going on, I guess, and I don't know how you can ever get control of those. I'm sure you try as best you can, but if, say, of one of the 475 bake sales that was held this year at the high school, say this French club was going to have 10 bake sales, do they have to get approval for each one of those, or how does that work?
Well, actually, the student reps have been talking about, student representatives of the school committee have been talking about exactly that this year. We had invited Mrs. McGovern from the food services director to come in and speak about just the regulations on selling food that is not prepared within the school. There's a certain liability on that. So one of the suggestions from the student reps is to put a calendar in place on the bake sales and to make sure that every club has equal opportunity and that you know when this is coming up. So it might be, rather than every day of the week, it might be one day a week, and clubs would need to sign up for it.
Okay.
But we've actually had, I think a student last year suffered an allergic reaction to a food product that was part of the bake sale, but the student wasn't aware of what was in that cookie or brownie, and actually, I think had, yeah.
But I get,
So-
on a bigger scale, so say the athletic boosters is having a dance, do they have to get approval from you to do that? I mean, I'm just curious as to how it works and if there's a better,
Yes.
if there's a better process.
Yes, all fundraising activities within our school community are supposed to take two steps. All of the fundraising activities are supposed to be pre-approved, and that approval focuses more on dates.
Right.
I think I'm the person who maintains a calendar, I shouldn't say I think, I am the person who maintains a calendar for fundraising events. And obviously I look at them, but my role is more to try to avoid 4 magazine drives the same weekend. It works very well as long as people do seek the pre-approval. And we have some work to do to try to make sure that happens, because a lot of the groups are very entrepreneurial and don't always remember some of the administrative requirements that they're supposed to go through prior to starting that. And I think what I can do is try to work more closely with the principals and the parent-teachers organizations to remind them that we do want to have those approvals beforehand, so that we can avoid conflicts such as ones you've mentioned.
My question though is about what we have in the handbook. Is it realistic to expect all fundraising activities that are expected to be held during the entire school year to be submitted to the superintendent's office by September 30th? I guess that's,
No.
I don't think it really is a realistic expectation, because someone in April might say, hey, I have a great, the freshman classes, we have a great idea for a fundraising event in June, but they didn't submit anything. So I guess we could keep it in there, but the more important point is that we actually have people come to you for us, mainly for the scheduling aspect and to make sure all the administrative I's dotted and T's are crossed, I guess.